happening, guys? Exile Baggage. So imagine this scenario. It's 9 o'clock, it's nighttime, you're about to go to bed, maybe you're getting the kids ready for bed, and all of a sudden you see smoke rising in the distance, and then the sky starts to light up with a huge fire. Not only that, but you start to hear explosions. Sounds like maybe high-grade military machine gun fire type stuff, AR-15, think that, semi-automatic, granted, but think AR-15 but louder, like maybe more like a mortar blowing up or a 50 caliber, something. I'm not a firearms expert, but imagine you hear something loud, sounds like explosions even, potentially bombs. So you're a family man, it's 9 o'clock at night, you're about to get the kids ready for bed, you see the sky light up, smoke rising, and then you hear a bunch of explosions. Boom! Boom! Every couple of seconds. They keeps going for 20, 30 minutes. What would you do? You can't see it. You don't know what's going on for sure. You hear reports. Man, a train derailed. Man, a vape shop is burning. A Consumer's Energy or whatever company is in that area, they something happened, something blew up, but you don't know. All you see is what you see, and you hear what you hear. What do you do? Especially if you have a wife and kids, what do you do? This happened recently. I have a buddy actually in that area, and I talked to him, and I'll share the story with you guys first. So CNN wrote an article in the Detroit area. It ended up being a vape shop, and somehow a fire happened, and they had illegally, the company had been storing some nitrous oxide, butane cylinders. Imagine a bunch of thousands and thousands of vape pens, getting burned up. But in addition to that, you have, the fire chief of that area. He's talking about these 15-pound cylinders, 12, 18 inches long, I think, if I remember correctly, get caught on fire, and that's what you hear. These cylinders are blowing up every couple of seconds. Boom! There's dozens of them, hundreds of them maybe. So, my friend that I talked to in that area, I was intrigued. I read this article on CNN, and I was like, I know someone in that area, I think. And sure enough, he told me, he's like, yeah, man, I got out. I heard the stuff blowing up. He told me that he got a little bit closer. He took something with him to make sure he was protected. He was ready to walk home, basically. So he was planning. He was thinking ahead, guys. He was thinking okay, reconnaissance. I'm gonna go do a sit rep, a situation report, and just see what's going on. So he went by himself. Took his truck. He said he tried not to travel more than a mile, just in case he had to walk home. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. That's not something I would have thought of. And so that's what he did. He ended up getting his people out. I think they went to a family member's house who was, a little bit outside of that blast radius. So guys, what happened was, I believe it was a 19-year-old young man died from the shrapnel. He was about a quarter mile away, I've read, and I don't know what hit him, but he says he got struck in the head from a quarter mile away from the blast site. Somebody else, a firefighter, was wounded by some glass shrapnel. So we've talked about this often on this channel, right? But at least we've mentioned it several times. I'm sure the verse, it says, the day of the Lord will come like a thief in the night. While they are saying there is peace and security, then destruction will come upon them suddenly, like labor pains upon a pregnant woman, and they will not escape. And so you think about that can apply to different things, right? A lot of people, they apply it to when Jesus Christ comes back on the clouds. Just as he left on the clouds, he ascended to heaven. When he comes back, he's going to come with fire. Revelation 19, it says his eyes are like a flame of fire, etc. And out of a sword comes out of his mouth to strike down the nations. And it says the Lord Jesus will be revealed from heaven in flaming fire, inflicting vengeance on those who do not know God and those who do not obey the gospel. So that's the ultimate day of the Lord. But the day of the Lord is repeated throughout the Old Testament several times, and it's fulfilled. And so there's a sense in which you can say the day of the Lord can be applied to perhaps various circumstances. Now, is a burning vape shop with shrapnel and exploding butane tanks, maybe not, but it does remind us, right? Because this family man at 9 o'clock at night was maybe about to get his kids ready for bed, and all of a sudden that's what he sees. He sees the fire, the smoke, and he hears boom, boom, boom every couple seconds. It's like, what would you think? You would not be at all shamed for thinking that like this was a terrorist attack, right? There's like a war zone going on. And so my question to you all is, what would you do in that scenario? Feel free to comment below. Feel free to weigh in. And so I started to think to myself, what would I do? It's nighttime, and it's a good exercise because it's basically a bug out practice, right? My buddy, he bugged out. He didn't necessarily drive 100 miles to a cabin to ride out the apocalypse for the rest of his days, but he did go to his a family member's house, and they slept there. They stayed. They wanted to get outside of that radius because they weren't certain what was going on. And so think about that. What would you grab if you think something's burning, you hear explosions, you don't know, is this a terrorist attack? Is this like going to be some chemical warfare? Even if it's just the building is burning, I think someone said that they saw like a green flash in the sky, and it's like, what is that? Is there smoke coming toward my house? Am I going to get a poisonous gas cloud of fumes, or is there some sort of fuel burning, some sort of, I don't know. So what would you do, guys? Would you stay home or would you leave? That's the first question. And then secondly, because that's such a panic-inducing situation, especially if you have kids, especially if it's nighttime, especially if it's in the winter, thankfully it's not really winter in the Midwest, at least where I'm at. As you can tell, it's kind of sunny out here. But what would you want with you? And so I gave it some thought. Here's what I would want with me. Here's some things to think about. So guys, we've talked about it before. Have bug out bags packed for your family. You guys can watch a video. I've shared at least one, maybe two videos in the past about a bug out bag. I'm probably due to do another one. What is best to have in it. Basically things like flashlight, food, shelter, maybe some hand warmers, a knife. Usually a knife is one of the top ones. You guys can check out bug out bag videos and put one together. If you haven't yet, I definitely recommend it. It can be fun because even if you don't use it for an emergency, it's some peace of mind, especially if you're going more than 10 miles away from home, and if you might have to walk home, what would you want on you to survive? Especially if you have to stay overnight. If you're more than 15 miles from home, you may very well be sleeping somewhere on the way home, especially if it's a dangerous situation. So you guys, again, you can look up bug out bag videos, but what would you want with you? Maybe a bug out bag. Do you carry a blanket in your vehicle? Do you have water and some snacks for the kids, right? Because you're taking kids out at 9, 10 at night, trying to get away. You don't know where you're going necessarily. Hopefully you have a spot that you could go. Think about where you would go in advance. Have some routes planned, especially if you don't know what's going on. And then what would you take with you? We talked about bug out bag, blanket, different car kits, medical supplies maybe. It's hard, guys, because this costs money. It costs time. A lot of people don't like to think about it in advance because it's like, well, what's the odds of that going to happen? Or, that's expensive. Or I don't want to waste time because what if nothing happens again? But it's like, well, here's an example of something happening. And if this was a terrorist attack, if this was a chemical burning and your family's life is at risk, isn't it worth it? And again, we've talked about this before, but you can use a bug out bag as you can take it camping. You can go out in your backyard, just, hey boys, grab your bags. We don't even have to plan anything. We're gonna grab our bags in the tent. We're just gonna go in the backyard, or we're gonna grab our bags in the tent and go to a campground. You don't have to think about it. You've got this pre-established bag that has everything you need, for a few days of camping. Basically, is one application you could use it for. So it's cool. It's fun. It can be nice to just go on the fly and know that it's relatively stress-free. You each grab your bag and grab a tent, and you're good to go. So I was thinking about it. What would I like? So I would take, the bug out bag. I would probably take a can of gas, guys. You can get they're not cheap. There's like $60 these days with the price of steel, I'm sorry to say, but a 5-gallon safety can. Because think about if this was a terrorist attack, and we talk about EMP being, the worst of the worst situation, especially if it was long-term, electricity gets knocked out, you don't have access to a gas station, right? So you're driving somewhere. If it's more than, hopefully you guys always keep a half a tank or more of gas in your vehicle, but how far will that get you? I don't know, 100, 150 miles for half tank-ish. But what if you need to go farther and the gas stations are closed down, there's no electricity? Is it wise to have a 5-gallon safety tank and carefully put it in your trunk? Obviously be very careful with fuel in a vehicle. It's meant to be a safety can. It hopefully does its job, but it's not fail-safe. It's not foolproof. You gotta make sure you store it correctly. So I would research that. I'm not an expert on that. I would do your own research to make sure you do that safely. But what's another 5 gallons of gas worth to you? Basically, if it gets you another 100 miles away from danger, at least. So something to think about. Bug out bag, safety gas can. Think about what else. Just run it through your mind. Are you going to want, depending on where you're going, and depending on are you ever going to see your house again? Guys, I think I've mentioned it before. I have my friend's wife literally had to bug out for her life. The men, this was in Africa, the men stayed in the village during an attack to defend and stuff, do their thing, and the women and children, they literally fled through the forest. It was a multi-day journey, fleeing through the forest. They started with a vehicle, they parked it on a road and went and slept in the forest, and then when they woke up the next morning, their vehicle was gone. So they had to walk the rest of the way. And I don't know the rest of the story, but that happened to somebody I know. Sudden bug out to save your life. So if you don't know if you're coming back, what would you want to grab? And can you grab some of these things in advance? Can you maybe put together a suitcase where you don't even have to think about it? Because again, you're going to be in panic mode, especially your wife. If you have a wife, ladies are more likely to panic, which is understandable. And that's going to add another hardship. How are you going to help keep yourself and your people from panicking, keep a level head? But, what would you pack in a suitcase? Would you put have a case of water in the car, probably, several gallons of water. Suitcase, you could put, a change of clothes for each family member. Throw a couple bars of soap. It's hard. It's hard to think about. But if you were never coming back to your house, what would you want to grab? That's a really hard consideration. If it's food wise, do you have some seeds? Do you have some heirloom seeds pouches that you want to grab your 10 or 12 favorite survival veggies and put them in a box and have that in the suitcase? Stuff that's hard to make, Joel Skousen in his book 10 Packs for Survival, he talks about items that are valuable, at least for barter and things like that, they're hard to produce, they have a good shelf life, they're highly sought after, and they're easily divisible. So those 4 attributes, again, good shelf life, difficult to produce, so you can't make them easily, so that makes them valuable. They have a good, they're highly sought after, recognizable, and they're easily divisible. So you think a box of ammo as an example, it qualifies for all 4 of those attributes. It's easily divisible, right? You could sell 1 round of .223 or .556 for $1 or whatever it's running these days. And so put those items that are highly valuable to you in the suitcase. Do you have your CPL? Can you easily just grab your pistol? You already got it on you, depending on what you might face as you go, if this is a terrorist attack. Cash, how much can you spare to put aside in an envelope? Can you put $500, whatever? Just something to think about, guys. What can you put into a suitcase and just grab it so you don't have to think about it? What can you pre-stock in your van? The water, the blanket, probably not the safety can, but if it were me, I was thinking about it, I would be like, okay, babe, have the kids grab their bug out bags, get their shoes, their jacket, and their bug out bags, just get in the van. You get the baby, I'll get your bug out bag and the gas can, and the suitcase, something like that. So guys, I hope this has blessed you, something to think about. Fear, wage war, and pack up.